Hello everybody and happy Wednesday. I'm really happy to be joining again for the live art demonstrations this week. Last week we had some awesome visitors, including a volunteer and an alumni and one current artist in residence. So that's why I was not around last week. Hi James. But I'm really happy to be back this week. I'm just going to turn down my music. It's a little bit loud. Awesome. It's going to be really great. At Artbeat these days, we are slowly preparing to reopen our Studio Central location, which is our urban art center. And that's kind of one of our most bustling locations and projects of Artbeat Studio. And so right now, before we open up fully, Marissa has put together a community consultation survey that you can fill out now if you go to either of the Facebook pages, this one, Studio Central, or Artbeat Studio, or our website, and you can just easily fill out a Google form. It probably takes about 5 minutes to do, and that really helps us to make sure that we are forming our programming around what is safe for you and what you desire for that space. So please give your feedback, and then we will continue to be working on a soft reopening process that's safe, but still allows people to come together and practice creativity together. We are also, though, hoping to continue these online art demonstrations because it can be really helpful for the people that aren't yet ready or able to be out in public, or people that face barriers being out in public regardless of the concerns around COVID. So we want to make sure that we are being accessible to everyone in every situation. So we are going to continue some online programming, but as I mentioned, it's going to be developed and we'll come out with information as soon as possible, but please give your feedback. So today, hello Marissa, thank you for joining. Today we are going to be doing blackout poetry or blockout poetry. I've seen it and heard it in different ways. Which is actually a really awesome technique that I recently learned about and have fallen in love with. It's a totally fun, creative process. It's kind of reminds me as the flip side of creating a collage poem, which you would use newspaper or magazines to cut out words and then create a poem out of those words that you cut out. I find that this technique in poetry writing, I have a little cat climbing up my back, and I'm not sure if you can see her. This is our visitor for today. This technique in poetry, it may be a little more challenging or less challenging for you as doing a collage poem, depending on if you like the option of having words chosen for you almost ahead of time. Versus if you want endless options for the letters and the words that you can use. So there are effectively about 3 or 4 steps for a really simple way of doing block poetry. And we will go through them together today. I will show you an example of one that I was just doing this afternoon, which looks like this. And I can read it out to you. It says, something isolated, left to itself, evolved. They'd become new. Mountains may block the path, but sooner or later, near a dry creek bed, at a sound in the darkness, that made sense. So that's a little block poem that I did today. Hello, Kim. And there's lots of different ways that you could do it. You can make it more beautiful than I have in this one magazine, but we'll go through those options today together. So what you need, and I hope that people have some access to some of these supplies right now, so that you can do this along with me, because it'll be fun to do that process together. But a newspaper, a page of a magazine, really anything that has words on it. Like if you have some old minutes from a meeting that you attended, or you have an old book that is not reusable and you can't lend it to someone to read and you want to use it, feel free to do that. I actually think that like an old torn book would be so beautiful and cool for this style of poetry. So yeah, feel free to grab that if you have access to that. Myself, I have some magazines that I love at my house, so I didn't want to use those, but I did find some old National Geographic magazines that I am okay with using, so that's what I'm going to be using today. I have these two. Thank you to the subscription that my partner gets. Hopefully he's okay with this. So I'm going to take the camera here and kind of just outline a little bit of the process that I did to create this example poem, and then we will go through step by step what you're going to be doing to create your own blackout poem. So yeah, in addition to a book, a magazine, or a newspaper, the other two supplies that are important to have are a pencil and then some kind of marker or thick pen that you can use to color in negative spaces. I'm just going to find, while you collect your supplies, I'm going to find my poem because I've lost it in my magazine. Okay, here we are. So I'm just going to flip you around here. Awesome. Okay, so when I started my poem, I just picked a page. I actually don't think that I really read the article first or really chose a page with specific words that I wanted. I just picked a random page, which can be pretty fun if you feel brave to have a challenge. Otherwise, you can look in different articles or pages of a book for words that are inspiring or beautiful to you, or that you feel like you can create a poem out of it. So essentially the first step in doing a blackout poem is to look at the text on your page. And what you are going to do is you're actually going to select words from the paragraphs in the text, and that is going to create a poem. Pretty fun in a National Geographic because there's a lot of nature talk, which can lend itself very well to a beautiful poem. The next step that you are going to do, the second step, is actually use a pencil to circle the words that you like. So that was the second step that I did in this series. And the reason why you're going to do that in pencil is because it allows you to erase the circles around the words if you decide to go a different way. And you can also add on as you like. So I know for myself, I kind of like had a first idea of the theme of the poem that I wanted to have, but then I changed it about halfway so that I just went in and erased some of the pencil marks, and then I added on further below. That is the core component of writing your poem because you're selecting the words and the order of them. One of the best pieces of advice that I received for this part of blackout poetry is to choose kind of the key bigger words first, and then find the smaller words that you need to fill in the sentence afterwards. Because usually in paragraphs full of text, you're going to have a lot of like that and up and from and to and the. So you can find those things within the script afterwards, but choose your big words like become new and evolved, dry creek bed, those kind of descriptive words first. Then the final step that we're going to do together is, after we've circled and chosen our words for the poem, is that we'll actually go and use a permanent marker or a thick pen and do a box around each of those words. And then we're going to color in all of the space to block out the rest of the text that we don't want for our poem. So as you can see, this is challenging because we don't have control over our own narrative of the poem beyond what is provided on the page for us. But it does provide some awesome freedom in not having that control and having to manipulate words and use things that you might not normally use in order to create a poem. So pretty fun project for writers. I think it kind of helps to think outside the box a little bit, ironically. Okay. So, oops. Do we have anyone that's going to be doing some poetry along here? I hope that you have a book or a magazine because it's pretty fun. And it's a little bit of a challenge for me because I have to do this live and picking my words for a poem, but then you can see the process that I'm using. So awesome. I am going to now put you in my hands-free selfie stick here so that you can see the page with me. Oops. It was so hot outside and now it's so cloudy. I wonder if it's gonna thunderstorm or something. Okay. How's this this view? Okay. So we are going to go to a page here. And I'm actually going to move you around so that I can see the page. Thanks, Marissa. I'm glad that the thought process is helpful. That's good. Okay. I have just some random foliage over there. Okay, so I have a pencil crayon here that I'll use as my pencil. And I'm going to find a paragraph within this large, many words in this page. And I'm going to first just kind of scan through the different paragraphs and see if there are words that stick out to me. So I'd feel trapped is an interesting phrase that I could use in a poem. Adventure, unfixed, fluid, refused lives. Okay, so I think there's enough big words in here that are very interesting that I can come up with something. Again, so the first step is to circle the words that you like, that you want to incorporate into your block poetry. But you don't have to be married to those words. You can go back and erase them or add on. I'm finding a lot of like kind of fully poetic sentences in this. I think this is a bit of a story here, so that's helpful for me. But the thing that you want to avoid when you have an already beautiful narrative in the article or the page that you're using is you want to make sure that you're coming up with your own poem and you're not using the words in the same way that the original author used those words. My cat is being very vocal, really wants to be involved here. Okay. Okay, so I am going to do kind of a a very open-ended poem from the words that I have here. I'm not quite sure what it means, but maybe we'll see afterwards. So I've selected my words. I think I'm okay with them, but I might change my mind as I do my blocking. But now I'm taking my permanent marker and I'm gonna go put a square block around the words that I circled. When you do this, you want to make sure that whatever word you are surrounding, you're not going to cut it off. It doesn't matter if you're going to cut off words around this because it will all be blocked out. So at this point, you can review the poem that you have created so far and make sure that it's something that you like. You still have, at this point, the ability to add words and remove words. If I decided that I don't want this word here, I would just put an X over it, and then I can cover that up afterwards when I'm fully blocking out the text underneath. So far what I have is we are alive, living in less than 100 square feet of space, an unfixed fluid existence, a freedom unknown, trapped. What will become of the boat when we die? I think I'm going to add on here. You cannot leave it here. A little bit of a mysterious poem, but I'm happy with that. So now I'm actually going to create a little parameter around what I want to block out on this page. And then the fun part, you're going to cover up all of the text that you're not using. I have seen people do this by like also drawing images into these words. So for example, maybe I'll just draw a little bit of a boat. Kind of the most rewarding part to me is this scribbling out the rest of the words. And again, I think I got lucky in this paragraph where there were some like even full sentences that I used. That's probably not the best practice because then you're not creating your poem fully, or you're still using some of the ways that the words were originally intended in your poem. But for this exercise, that's okay. So you can see at this point why putting your square around the words that you want to keep is important instead of just using the pencil, because it can get pretty mixed up when you're scribbling everything out. Awesome, so that is our block poem that we did here. Thank you, Shanti. Very cool, Kristen. We can all feel like editors. And then choosing words is very creative, takes a lot of thought. Yes, Janice, I agree with you. It's honestly, I really feel like it allows you to bring out a new poetic side of yourself because you have the freedom of using words that are laid out for you. And this type of poem maybe would be it'd be a more deep and mysterious poem than I would normally write if I was choosing all of my own words. But it gave me the freedom by having words as a reference, like an unfixed, fluid existence. Like it just is pretty cool. So what do we think? Let's check the time and see if we want to. Oh, it's Chloe. Hi, Chloe. I think we have time for a quick one more short poem. So let's find a page here. Okay, so even just scanning this bit of page here, I see the word hurriedly, and I like that word. Eagerly. Strong, let go. Okay, I think that I can make a poem out of this here, but now I've lost my pencil, so let's grab another one. I'm just going to circle words at this point that are of interest to me. I'm not creating my poem quite yet, but I'll be doing this process of creating the poem as I read through and circle. I like the word building. Okay. Okay, so I've chosen some words, and I think that it's going to work for a poem. I don't have to cross anything out. So now I'm going to go in and do our second step, which is to do a square around all the letters or words that I want. Okay, so in this poem, the words that I've chosen have, oh yes, can you read us the words you're choosing as you go along? So in this piece here, I chose a home, a voice, building family, stories, conversation. I never give up. There are enough places for everyone. So now I'm just gonna kind of like sit in that poem and see if it's what I like and that it makes sense to me. I think it's easy to choose words that can sound beautiful together, but you're gonna want in writing your poem for it to really make sense and bring a story across that you like and feel connected to. So at this point, I actually want to myself remove these two because I think it's stronger to say a home, a voice building conversation. I never give up. There are enough places for everyone. Okay, so I might do a little bit of a wavy outline here, which you can feel free to do as well. And the last step would be to color this in. If you're like me and you read a lot of poetry and you've come across this style of poetry, it can look so beautiful and fancy and can be quite profound. But then when you actually sit down and do it, it's a totally accessible, can be made into a simplified form of writing poetry, which is really nice. And I also think it would be a great writing exercise to do while you're trying to form ideas for your own poetry. When you're writing like freehand. Some markers don't like the pages of a magazine like this one. It doesn't like it. It's the ink is stopping to come out, so just make sure if you're going to a park with your book and marker that you bring an extra one, because you never know how it's going to react to the paper. This switch out to something that will have a little bit more. So you can actually say you have to switch your markers, or you just want to make it a little bit more of having a design. You can use 2 different colors and they will just kind of blend into each other. Now I'm kind of wanting to try this with acrylic paint, although I feel like that would take a really long time to dry on this magazine. And as you can see, I made a few mistakes where I covered up some of the letters. So what I could do later is go over just with a little bit of paper towel and water and try to get rid of the marker. So this poem here, a home, a voice, building conversation. I never give up. There are enough places for everyone. Yeah. So I'm wondering if there are any questions. I'm just going to check on the comments here a little bit. Poetry books. Awesome. Who was making all that noise in the background? That was Chloe. That was my little kitten. She is now sleeping behind me. She doesn't like to be not receiving attention. She's 9 weeks old, so she's a sweet little cat. So yeah, that is basically Blockout Poetry with Kristen, and I'm now very inspired to create more of these poems. This magazine that I was using, like I said, has a lot of like descriptors and explanations of nature and places. So if you are looking for a beginner type of like text that you can really pull some words that you're familiar with and that you feel comfortable with, I would totally encourage you to choose a magazine that's focused around a topic that interests you, and then you can pull out those words and create your own poems. So please try this on your own. If you're doing this today, or if you do this later on in the week or the month, I would really love to read your poems. I'm a huge poetry fan. So send it in to us on Facebook Messenger or on Instagram, and we'll repost if you want even. But thanks so much for joining, and happy writing.